Hey everyone, David C. Anderson here coming at you from the Knife Center, and it's that time of the week where we get to take a look at the coolest new knives that have hit our shelves in the last week. Let's check them out. Alright, for the very first thing, I'm really happy to be able to introduce the new Knife Center exclusive version of the Victorinox Farmer X Swiss Army knife. And our exclusive version has this red A-LOX coloration rather than the standard silver, and you can only get it from us. You know, I love the standard A-LOX handle scales, that silver look on these knives, but it's a Swiss Army knife, and we always feel like a Swiss Army knife ought to be red, right? So that's why we're thrilled to have this particular color on this knife for our exclusive. Now, if you don't know what the Farmer X is, it's a continuation of the standard Farmer model, which of course has the saw, your blade, your awl, can opener, bottle opener, that sort of thing. And it adds the X, which is the pair of scissors, which is right here. There we go. Another way you could think about it, we've also got the Pioneer X. Again, we've got an exclusive red color on that. You can kind of think of the Farmer X as a Pioneer X with the addition of a saw. It's otherwise the same, you would arrive at the same set of tools in any case. But it's really cool color, the way they do this red, it just turns out really, really nicely. As I said, we've got the Pioneer X, we've also got the Bantam in this really cool colorway, which you can check those out as well. Farmer X right now coming in 60 bucks. All right, next up we've got a new Spyderco. This is the Astute, comes in at $45.50 right now. And ever since I saw this at SHOT Show, I knew that this is gonna be a contender for all of 2020 for one of my favorite new knives under that $50 mark. It's just very nice shape, it's executed well. If you're familiar at all with the Tenacious, which is a fantastic budget-oriented knife in Spyderco's lineup, it's kind of the same vibe, same construction, same fit and finish, just in a different overall profile. That shape overall kind of reminds me a little bit of a sort of a Canadian belt knife in a way. You've got almost an elliptical blade shape there, like that, like the Grohmann or the Russells out there. But the handle shape especially kind of helps hammer that home for me, and the way it kind of offsets with the blade. Obviously, it's not a strict Canadian belt knife, it just gives me those kind of vibes a little bit. But speaking of that handle shape, because there's no finger grooves or beaks or anything, you've got this kind of elongated, elliptical shape. All kinds of different hands are going to be able to fit it. Whether you've got smaller or larger hands, you're not going to feel like you have a proscribed grip because of anything. It just fits really nicely. I can get all four of my fingers on it, and as the comments section is about to chime in before I can even finish saying it, I do have slightly larger than average hands, and they fit there quite nicely. Liner lock to hold the blade open, 4-position pocket clip as well, which is quite nice. And the blade itself, 8CR13 MOV steel, and just a hair over 3 inches. I was kind of hoping this would come in at a measurable just under 3 inches, so it would kind of hit that length for folks that need that length for compliance reasons. It is about a hair over that 3-inch mark though, unfortunately. But it's a really cool blade shape no matter how you look at it. And if you sharpen it a few times, or maybe you break the tip off a little bit if you're using it a little too hard, it'll be under 3 inches then, and there you go. Folded up, I really like the way it sits together. Similar to the Tenacious, it has some really nice intersections of its lines when it's closed. You can see right here it melds really nicely into the front end there. Now the opening hole on this is a little bit smaller than on some others, but even with my big thumb, I still can get in there. It's just a little bit, it's not quite as quick flicking as potentially the Tenacious would be. But I really like the design. It's graceful, very EDC friendly, nice slicey full flat grind. A lot to love here for, like I said, just about 45 bucks. All right, we previously showed you the new Saddle Mountain fixed blades from Benchmade in their newly revamped, I should say, Hunt series of fixed blades. I've now got the Hidden Canyon knives to show you this week, which are of course the smaller versions. There are two right now. We've got the standard model, which has S30V blade steel and a stabilized laminated wood. That one comes in about $136. But the real performance powerhouse is the upgraded version here. We've got S90V steel, so you've got a ton of edge retention, and you've got these really cool rich light handles with orange liners coming in about $195 or just over right now. And they've actually improved this in a number of ways over the previous versions of these knives. First of all, and I think the most important for me, thinner blade stock overall. So you've got much better slicing characteristics going on, especially with the high flat grind on these blades. And then on the S90V versions, they have what Benchmade's calling their select edge technology, which I hate to use the word technology in this case, but I think that's what they're calling it, because it's not really any new technique or any new technology. What they mean by that is the edge itself has been sharpened to a thinner angle than their standard, which is roughly a 20-degree edge per side, which you'll see on the base model. But these versions with select edge come with a 14-degree edge, so it's much narrower, much more acute, and especially on this, you can really take advantage of that S90V edge retention right there. They've also taken the crenellations here at the back and made them a little softer, more rounded over, so it's a little more comfortable and you're less likely to catch things when you're actually using this in a skinning capacity. And that comes through right here on the finger guard as well. It's nice and rounded over to keep from catching anywhere. The rich light looks really cool. It's essentially, or very similar, I should say, to a paper micarta material, so it's got a really nice matte finish. And with these, with this particular coloration, it still maintains kind of a classic, kind of traditional look going on. But in addition to hunting, this is obviously, I think, going to make a great everyday carry. You've got just a nice, simple drop point shape, small enough you could do a lot of things in tight corners. You got some jimping here at the front where you can put your fingertip out there, get some traction, and your thumb jimping as well. Now, as far as the sheaths on the upgraded model, you've got a bolt-around sheath. You can see we've got orange on the front, black on the back, with a nice wide opening there. Meanwhile, the wood-handled versions come with a more traditional leather style of sheath, and it is molded quite nicely here, and you've got that strap as well with your standard kind of drop belt loop there. Now, the one thing on the bolt-around sheath of the upgraded model, the one thing I wish they did but they didn't, is they don't actually include any belt attachment hardware in the box. They've kind of been intending this to live in the pack. I do think that was a little bit of a misstep, but the hole pattern here is going to fit a large tech lock, and of course you've got the slot there, so a small tech lock will work as well. If you have one already, you can throw it on here, carry it no problem. You can of course carry it as a neck rig as well. Or one thing I've done, I've actually used paracord to kind of create my own belt loops on sheaths like this, so you can have a sort of a horizontal cross draw that way if you want, or of course you could carry it vertical as well. Just know you're going to have to do that, and we're going to make sure to leave links to our tech lock selection in the description as well. All right, next up we've got another Benchmade. These are the new limited edition Infidels. Now these aren't crazy limited. They aren't limiting this to just like 200, 500, or even 1,000. But they are only going to make this for a year. So if you want one, you're not going to want to wait too much longer because it will be going away at some point. But they are going to make, I believe, as many as get ordered, essentially. Just get your orders in. But it has some upgrades over the standard model, and this one comes in about $446 right now. You've got an S30V double-edged blade. Of course, you've got that nice Benchmade blue coloration going on here. Deep carry pocket clip on the back. One thing to note, I'm holding a prototype right here. Yours will not come with the prototype lasering right there. I only have this because we haven't sent it back to Benchmade yet, but we need to do that. So we'll make sure to do that real soon. Apart from that, it is everything you love about the standard Benchmade Infidel. You've got a lot of traction because of the milled ridges on the grip here. And of course, it's a double action out the front automatic. So you've got good action going in or out, nice and snappy. It's an Infidel. It just looks even cooler than before. All right, I'm going to stick with OTF automatics for a minute because we've actually got a couple this week. We've got a new selection of Heretic Manticores right now. This particular version I think is really cool. It comes in at $280. We've got an S35 VN blade with a really cool recurve shape going on. It adds a little bit of kind of sexiness to an OTF automatic, which sometimes can get a little blocky or symmetrical. This is just one way to kind of spice things up, and I think they did a really nice job with it. I also like seeing a steel like S35 VN or even S30V like on that Benchmade, because for those out there who actually want to use an automatic for everyday carry, sometimes companies will put a little bit cheaper steel on there, but that's not the case here. We've got really good edge retention and a nice stonewash finish as well, which you folks know I like very much for its ability to hide scratches from use when you actually put the knife into use. Use the word use a lot there, but that's okay. The other cool thing about the Manticores is the slide on the side is actually G10, which is really cool. You've got that milled, stepped look going on. It works really well. You still get a good amount of traction, while at the same time it has the effect of sort of softening the edges a little bit over a typical milled aluminum slide or a metal slide. It's just not quite as sharp, or not quite as bitey when you actually actuate it, but still, like I said, plenty of traction. All right, next up, this is a doozy, and this might actually be the most expensive knife I've ever showed on this new Knives of the Week series. It's a new Marfione Custom Combat Troodon coming in just under $2,000. Now, what you get with a Marfione Custom over the standard Microtech models is a hand-ground blade for one, as well as a hand-finished attention to detail and some blingier materials than you're gonna get on those baser models. And part of what you're paying for, of course, is the name. Tony Marfione is a giant in the automatic knife world, and you get the exclusivity and rarity of a hand-ground blade from him. Apart from that, this model feels really fantastic. Obviously, the most eye-catching part of this is the blade. You've got compound grinds, again, all done by hand, and the precision on display here is quite high, considering it's not milled, it's not a jig going on here. And we've got a blued spirograph Damascus steel going on here. Looks just really out of this world. Even on the flats of the blade here, where you've got a horizontal satin finish, you can still see a little bit of the pattern there, even though it's not etched in the same way that the hollow ground portions are. And you can even see it along the spine as well. You can see a bit of that wave, which is kind of cool, I must say. You've got a pocket clip to match, of course, deep carry and reversible. And you've got your standard pommel there with your skull crusher, glass breaker, whatever you want to call it. And I really like the treatment on the handles here. You've got kind of a brushed finish going on, of course a taper towards the front and the back, and very good action. Very, very good action. I won't do that too many times. It's just a really special piece. All right, while we're looking at customs, I got a Brian Tighe custom I want to show you this week. We've actually got a number of new Brian Tighe customs in right now. Not as mid-techs, like full-on customs from Brian Tighe. But this one in particular, this is one of Tighe's breakers, Tighe breaker, you get it. This, like I said, this is the one that really caught my eye because of the blade itself. We come in just under $1,000, and we've got an RWL 34 blade, but it's laminated, but it's not laminated with steel. You can see here we've actually got carbon fiber cladding on both sides of the blade. Here, I'll give you a shot from the spine. You can see all three layers going on right there. As to how he got the carbon fiber to adhere to the steel itself, I don't know, probably magic. What's kind of cool too is the grinds don't stop at the carbon fiber itself. You actually get them, you've got hollow ground section here, and it looks like flat on the front, but it is a little hard to tell because of the way the things meld together. But it actually goes up onto the carbon fiber. You do get a little bit of tear out there right at the edge, but it's ground the same way a non-clad or a non-carbon fiber clad breaker would be. Now the handles are carbon fiber as well and fully integral, as you can see. This is a single piece of carbon fiber, and as a result, I mean, this is a pretty big knife. We've got a roughly 4-inch blade here, but it's really lightweight, especially for that size. Let me check what we're working with here. Under 4 ounces for this whole thing. Like that's just crazy to me. But you've got some really cool milling patterns, machining pattern going on here. Very Brian Tighe in nature in terms of how it's put together. And especially here at the lanyard hole, I really appreciate the way that's been milled out. All the edges are radiused over, so a lanyard really could fit in there without hitting itself on any sharp edges. Just a really cool, if anything on this entire knife is going to speak to the attention to detail, just that lanyard hole right there can do it. And you've got a pocket clip here. This is a zirconium clip, and that matches the pivot collars on front and back as well. And of course, this is a button lock, so you can flick it open and closed, or you can flick it closed with the button held down quite nicely, and it's going to flip open really well. Very different sound though from some kind of a beefy overbuilt folder when it actually locks up. Part of that's due to the button lock, part of that's due to all this carbon fiber, but man, just really cool knife, and the weight itself I think is one of the most impressive things to me. Ton of blade here for under 4 ounces. All right, let's bring it back down to earth a little bit. This still isn't a cheap knife, but we've got a new batch of the Mercworx Custom push daggers. A few different versions. We've got 154cm and S30V versions. 154cm coming in at $300. And let's check the S30V. Only $350 for the S30V, so not a huge jump between the two price-wise. Obviously designed as sort of a last-ditch self-defense piece. You've got pretty thick steel going on here, but all the edges are nicely rounded over, so it is very comfortable. You don't feel any sharp edges right there. We've got a really impressive wedge of a blade sticking out forward. Double ground and very strong feeling, or very inspiring anyway, I should say, in the hand. Now, one of the things you'll see with this design, as opposed to some others, is there's a slight offset to the angle of the handle itself, which we do have micarta here. Now, the reason they give for that kind of pistol grip type of look, or design feature, I should say, they say it's to prevent yaw when you're actually using the knife. And to that, I take that to mean when you're striking, since your wrist is already pointed down a little bit, you're less likely to kind of flex all over the place when making contact. Now, both the 154cm and the S30V versions of this blade are available with two separate sheath systems. There's both an inside the waistband and an outside the waistband sheath. I've got one of the inside the waistband ones here. As you can see, you've got a folded over piece of Kydex here, or is that Bolteron? It is Kydex, like I thought. So you could certainly just kind of slip that over your hem and carry it inside the waistband if you want. I will say though, if you do that and you go to pull the knife, it is just going to pull the entire sheath out with you. That's why you actually have a molded in belt loop right here. So you can run your belt through there as you slip this inside the waistband, so you can get a nice positive draw and have it very unobtrusive in your day-to-day life. All right, next up we've got a small knife here from Darrel Ralph, and pretty affordable for a Darrel Ralph. If you've been looking to get something from him but can't afford any of his high-end customs, this is the Sermon 556 neck knife, coming in for just 49 bucks. We've got a CPM 154 blade, about 2¼ inches long. It's available with both stonewashed and a black epoxy powder coat, if you'd rather have something like that. You guys know, I love a stonewashed finish. As far as the blade shape, I guess it's technically a straight clip point, because we have the entire length of the blade. We've got just a straight back spine dropping like that. So it's not quite a drop point, but it might as well be. Now for me, this is kind of a 2.5 at most finger grip, and you can get it in this skeletonized version. We can also get it with cord wrap already installed. And you can see here at the back, you've got a nice flathead screwdriver / pry bar. Just make sure, if you are going to use that to pry, make sure you put it in the sheath first. We've got Kydex in this case. Snaps in quite nicely, taco style. And then we've got a nice breakaway ball chain here that's not going to constrict you too bad if it gets yanked on, but it's still going to provide what you need when you're carrying it day to day. Of course, if you want to carry it on your belt, a large tech lock will fit. It is going to add a fair bit of bulk though, but it is going to work for you with those two holes there at the bottom. All right, next up we've got a new hunting item from Gerber, and I guess it's August now, so hunting season is right around the corner. But this is a new exchangeable blade system. This is the Randy Newberg EBS, and there's some really smart touches going on here. And this comes in at just under 60 bucks, or right at $59.99 right now. So obviously this is not a belt carrying device. This is something that's going to live in your kit until you're ready to field dress your game. And the handle for the knife itself pops out from the case, so that's two separate pieces there. And before I open up the case, which has those exchangeable blades in there, one of the nice touches on both the handle and the case itself, both sides of the handle in fact, is some high reflectivity tape right there. So even if it catches just the hint of your flashlight beam, if you happen to have set this down, maybe you caught that animal right at dusk and you're running out of daylight and you need to find your knife, just that, just the edge of your headlamp beam or something is going to reflect really brightly, so you'll be able to locate that a little more easily. All right, now looking here at the case, which, as I said, contains the blades, comes with 3 different blades. You pop the latch open, you can hold it back here. You can see, again, a really nice, smartly designed touch on the inside is you've got essentially a rubber baffling here at the top, and it even says right here, maximum 3 blades at a time, but it moves around a little bit, so you've got a little bit of flex to that rubber. What's great about that is when you close that case up, it's pushing those blades down so it doesn't rattle. And if you're walking through the woods wanting to keep your gear silent, you're not going to have to worry about this. But right out of the box, 3 blades like I mentioned. You've got a shorter drop point with a fully serrated edge, another drop point, and technically this is a Scandi grind, which is kind of cool. And then you've got a longer drop point with, again, a Scandi, but technically a compound grind here, because there's essentially a thinning grind going on right in front of the the hole that lets it hold into the handle itself. About 4¼ inches of edge on this longer version, and like I said, it gets a little bit thinner than the shorter blades, which each have about 3¼ inch of blade, or of edge, I should say. Now to attach your blade to the handle, you simply push this down, slide the slot over the post there, and slide it back and let go, and you're good to go. Now one of the things I like about this design is it's not necessarily a disposable blade system. It is just a replaceable blade system. They actually went with some really good steel for these replaceable blades here. This is 440C, so it's not just some bargain basement type of material. They wanted to make sure you had, good enough edge retention to get you through your hunt. The crazy bushcrafter in me, since this is technically a Scandi, wonders how it's going to behave as a whittling knife. Might be okay, might not be the most comfortable handle for that type of use. It is going to give you a lot of grip in wet conditions, whether you're hunting or fishing, because you've got a nice rubberized coating going on around here, so it holds nice and easy. And of course, you've got the skeletonized bits of the handle itself, which is going to give you some more purchase points for your fingertips as you're working with the knife. Now, I really have to give Gerber props for the way they designed this. It would have been very easy, especially when partnering with some kind of celebrity endorser, to maybe do something that's not as good as it might have been. They've certainly maybe been guilty of that in the past, but that's not the case I feel here. The design is smart, the materials are well chosen, and I think this is going to be a really effective little blade. All right, last but definitely not least, we've actually got a new brand that we're bringing into the Knife Center called Ultra X. And this is an imported line of knives that really hammers home the value quotient. You may have seen or be familiar with stuff from CJRB right now, which are kind of the standard to beat in terms of affordable flippers coming out of China. Ultra X is definitely in that same vein. A lot of quality going on here for honestly stupidly low prices. As low as like 24 bucks. This particular knife is called the Rhino, and it comes in at just under 27 right now. We've got a 9CR18 MOV blade, which is roughly analogous to 440C in terms of its performance. It's a little bit on the chunkier side. You've got G10 handles with some pretty thick liners with the liner lock there. So it feels like there's going to be a decent bit of strength to hold that blade open. Nice jigged pattern going on this particular model as well, which is pretty cool. Of course, you've got that trailing Tonto point there, kind of Quaken-esque a little bit. Compound flat grinds, nice stone-washed finish. A lot of features for not a lot of money. And ball bearings in the pivot, so it's going to flip open quite nice. And really, when I say stupidly inexpensive, I really mean it. For 27 bucks, I thought CJRB kind of had it nailed with the amount they were able to bring to the market for the price they did. But, and they may be a little bit nicer than these in terms of the fit and finish or the design, but not by much. You should definitely check these out. Now, I've just got 2 of the models that we just brought in, but like I said, this is a new brand for us. We have a bunch of models in. We'll make sure to leave a link to all of them below. But this one right here is called the Ripple, but this comes in at 34. We've got D2 steel right now, or sorry, just under 33 with D2 steel, and a bit more of an EDC-friendly drop point type of shape. If you prefer the versatility of that over the Tonto right there. You've got some sculpting to the handles, not just a flat slab. You've got a little bit of radius along with this sort of mountain tread type of texture here. But apart from that, it's kind of the same story overall. You've still got, like I said, that nice thick liners, ball bearing in the pivot, really good action, and really good bang for your buck. All right, that's all I've got to show you right now. Make sure to let us know in the comments which ones your favorites were. If you want to get your hands on any of these, we'll leave links in the description to take you over to KnifeCenter.com. And while you're over there, make sure you sign up for our Knife Rewards program, because if you're going to buy one of these cool knives, you might as well earn some free money to spend on your next one. All right, thanks for sticking around, everyone. Make sure to like and subscribe if you haven't already. I'm David C. Anderson from the Knife Center signing off. See you next time.